I strike because I have this pain in my chest. I don't know if you guys have this pain too, where
I got a change in my rear end.
count it.
Pain, yeah.
A pain in the rear end, a pain in the chest, wherever you have that pain. I'm right there with you.
Yeah, thank you.
Because my friends and family are starting to get to that point where they're starting to have kids. My friend Khalid has an 8-week-old son. My cousin Taylor has a 1-year-old baby girl. And they have no idea what trouble they've inherited at no fault of their own. I strike because I couldn't dare look my child in the eye and tell them that I didn't do everything I could possibly do. Everything. I mean, you know, you could go watch Netflix and go have a night out, but the world is in crisis mode right now. How couldn't I do everything to stop this impending existential threat posed by this climate crisis? I strike because I truly believe that a concerted effort to address this crisis could result in some time in the future where our children, where our grandchildren will look back and they'll be like, wow, they were on the ropes. It was the 11th hour. There were some people that didn't believe it was even possible to come back. And then they found themselves. And then they found each other. And they made it happen. And this concerted effort is not out of reach. I guarantee it, folks. It's not out of reach. I've been all over the world on the front line, meeting with some of these communities that are putting the time in, that are putting the effort in, that are counting on us in our local communities to also do the right thing, whether it's on plastics, whether it's on renewable energy, whether it's on REACH codes for more sustainable building development to get off natural gas. People are counting on us. You know, this strike is occurring at over 2,993 locations across 169 countries. I was reading 1.5 plus million people in Germany. All of the students in New York, 1.1 million students, were allowed to skip school today and strike. Can you imagine? This is part of our heritage. It's one that begins, coincidentally enough, with carbon. Back in the early 1800s, working class miners, dockers, railwaymen found that the general strike was one of the most effective ways to get the powerful to listen to their demands. Power to bring that system to a halt with the concentration of energy flows on which our industrial society depended on, and unfortunately still depends on. From the mine and the well, to the train, to the factory, to the office, to the home, and all means of transport in between. The ability to control these things gave these workers great political power. So much so that there were so many industrial institutions that were actually putting out think tank papers saying, how do we stop these people? How do we stop this force? That's how powerful people were when they assembled together and fought against an unjust and inequitable system. And I find it fitting that we're standing here today, connected together, not just in Marin with San Rafael and Mill Valley, but also with the greater Bay Area and internationally with all of those countries. It's absolutely incredible. And we're standing, looking at this system and saying, this has not produced the outcomes that we want to see. And we demand better from our politicians, from the corporate institutions, from the banks. We demand better. And they're responsible for providing better. The road ahead isn't going to be easy. Since the Paris Agreement was adopted, 33 global banks have financed $2 trillion to expand the extraction, production, transportation, and use of fossil fuels. $2 trillion since the Paris Climate Accords was signed. This week, a landmark $300 billion highway bill is working its way through Congress, with a poison pill establishing sweeping environmental exemptions for thousands of oil and gas pipelines on federal and Indian lands. Just this week, the American Association for the Advancement of Science reported that bird populations have continued to plummet by as much as 30%, a loss of 3 billion birds since 1970. And so what do? We meet like this. We strike for a Green New Deal. We strike for respect of indigenous land and sovereignty. We strike for environmental justice, and we strike for the protection and restoration of biodiversity on our national parks and national seashores here and all around the world, in our marine protected areas and protected lands elsewhere. And we do this because it's our responsibility. You hear so many people talk about, what are my rights? What am I entitled to in this country? And they forgot that just a couple generations ago, with my grandparents and your grandparents, folks were talking about, what is my responsibility?
Right.
What am I supposed to give back to my community?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of folks have lost that.
Yeah.
And so we need to reclaim that, not just for ourselves, but for the future generations and for the wildlife therein and these public lands and these open spaces and in our communities where we live among nature in a beautiful place like Marin, right? And we do this because we must, or no one else will. In closing, the people united will never be defeated. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. In solidarity, thank you for coming out today.
Thank you, Chance.